Oh, I haven't stopped it. Doesn't matter. This lesson is on moving a sprite around a screen and a little bit of sound recordings. So I started with a backdrop. My backdrop is a basketball half court. I've got a basketball as my sprite. I did shrink my basketball down to size 70 because at 100% it was just too big for the court. What I want to do when I start my little game or start my little coat here, I want to make sure that my basketball goes to the center court. So I'm going to move my basketball where I want it to go when I start, when I press the green flag. Now down here, you'll notice my X and my Y changed to match whatever I had. So there's my basketball. I've got an X and a Y. And the reason you want to do this to start is you can hand type these, but it's easier when it does the work. So I'm going to go get an event. My event is going to be when they press the green flag. I'm going to set up my stage when they press the green flag. I'm going to go to motion. I'm going to do the go to. X is something, Y is something. And these happen at 13 and -102 match because it'll take whatever's here and transfer it for me. It's kind of nice that way. The next thing I want to do is I want to say I'm starting my game. I'm going to go get a sound, and I'm going to play a sound until done. Now, here's the thing. I don't want it to play pop. That's silly. But if you click that, you'll get a button that says record. So you get the record screen. From here, you can press the record button. Game on. And stop record. Now, you'll notice that it had a lot of dead space at the beginning and the end. I'm going to actually trim those down so there's not a lot of wait for me to say game on. And I'm going to save it like that. Once we get here, rename it. Name it what it is. When you're doing the sounds, name the sound. In this case, I'm doing vocals and words, so I'm just going to call it game on. I'm going to go back to my code. I'm going to make sure I change my sound to game on. And I'm going to save my project. I'm going to give it a try. Game on. Oh, yeah. So this is where I want to start. Now, let's get to the movement parts. There is another control or event that's called when you press a certain button. So I want to do my left, right, up, down arrow. So I want you to say, when you press the left arrow, I want you to move the ball to the left. And that's in my motion. And I can just, because left and right is x-axis, so I'm changing x, and to go left, it would be a -10. Now I can save it again and try it out. Game on. And you'll see I go, but I don't want my basketball to leave the court. That's definitely out of bounds. I'm going to move my basketball to the farthest left I'm willing to let them go. And I'm going to do a conditional statement. Conditional statements say, if this is true, then do this. If it's not true, or else, do this. And those are found down here in control. I want the if, then, else one, the one that looks like this right here. And I'm going to move this down, and I'm going to stick this here. We'll be bringing this back up in a moment. So here's the statement. I don't want x to be less than -217. So as long as x is greater than -217, it can change the position. The minute it's less than, I don't want it to do it. To do this, I'm going to use what's called operators. When you see the little blank space here, that means it holds an operator. Remember, I said as long as x is greater than -217, so I'm looking for the greater than operator, this one right here, and it's -217. At this point, you're really going to have the urge to type X in this first box. Do not. If the box is rounded like this, it means you can put something in it. In this case, I want to put the X. X is actually a variable, but it's not kept down in the variables. It's actually kept at the end of motion. I don't know how thrilled I am, so I'm going to go down here, and there's the X position. I'm going to stick it right in that circle. So if X is greater than 217, then you can go ahead and less it. If it's not, I want to say out of bounds. So I'm going to put in a sound and say out of bounds. Whoops, it put it on the wrong one. Out of bounds. I don't have it yet, so I'll record it. Out of bounds. I'm going to clip it. Out of bounds. And save it. I'm going to give it a new name called Out of Bounds. Go back to my code. I'm going to make sure I change this. Now let's try it. Hit save first. Let's try our game.
Game on.
So I go to left.
Out of bounds.
Out of bounds. Oh my gosh. Now, let's contemplate and do the same thing for the right arrow. Again, grabbing the one that gives me a chance to pick a key. I'm going to pick right arrow. I'm going to put, because I know what I'm getting to now, I'm going to put my if then else statement in there. I'm going to go down to my operators. But this time, I want X to be all the way over here. And right now, I'm showing X is 220. I want it to be less than. So I'm going to pick a less than operator. And I want it to be less than 220. Whoops. 220. Again, I got to go get my X position. That's up here. Scroll down a little bit. I get X position. If that's true, I want to change X by 10 because I'm going in the right direction. If it's not true, I want to play the sound out of bounds. So I'm going to go to my sounds, and that was kind of it to already have out of bounds limited. So I'm good. I'm not going to try it yet because I'm going to do the down arrow. So when the down arrow is pressed, I put my if then else statement in there. Put my operator. Now, here's my ball. I don't want it to go lower than this. But now I'm dealing with a y coordinate, right? So if y, as long as y is greater than negative 158, I'm going to do an operator. Greater than negative 158. I'm going to go up to my motion. I don't want x now. I want y. As long as y is greater than that, then I want it to change position. And how much do I want it? I want y to be negative by negative 10. Because I'm going down. Remember, y goes up, it's positive. Down, it's negative. Otherwise, I want it to say out of bounds. I'm doing the same thing for my top, except I got to make a little change here. So my top, I'm going to do my if then else statement. I'll do my operator again. This time, I don't want y to get higher than this, which is 158. So I want it to be less than 158. Go steal from motion. I get my y position. If it's good, I want it to go ahead and change y by a positive 10. If it's not, I don't want to say out of bounds this time. I'm going to say airball. So I'm going to record a new song or a new sound. Airball. I'm going to trim that up. Airball. Give it a name called airball. Back to my code. Make sure I change it. So, oh, I didn't even do the up arrow there. I got all excited. Up arrow, change that to airball. So now when I start my game,
game on.
I can move left and right.
Out of bounds. Out of bounds. Airball. Out of bounds.
All right, so it's pretty good. I have one more thing I want to do. If that basketball hits the net, I actually want it to make a sound. So I'm going to make my own Sprite. And I'm going to cheat. I'm going to steal this basketball net off. And I'm going to put it. Now, you'll notice when I go up, the basketball's in front of the net. It never gets in the net. So let's give it kind of the appearance that the basketball is in the net. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to steal the net and make it a Sprite. So I go to the backdrops there. And you'll notice this backdrop is all pieces. And you could do this with a ton of things. The basketball, I'm going to ungroup it. Click somewhere else. And I'll notice right now when I ungrouped it, I got the net and the hoop. They're all one. I'm going to Control X, which is to cut them. Actually copy them and then delete them from the backdrop. I'm going to go to the front and I'm going to create a Sprite of my very own by painting. And I'm going to paste them. And now I pasted it. And that was pretty easy to make a Sprite. I'm going to go to code because I got to code my Sprite. So right now my Sprite is stuck up in the air. Get out of the way, basketball. My Sprite is stuck in the air. I want it to be where it's supposed to be, which is about right there. So there I've got that. I need to make sure every time the game starts, it's there. I'm going to do some controls. Oh, sorry, events. When you click the flag, I'm going to move that to X and Y. So it's that motion where I go to X and go to Y. And the other thing I want is I don't want the basketball to be in front of it. I want it to appear behind it. So I always want the basketball net to be at the front of the stage. So that's in looks. I want it to go to the front layer. And it already gets it. I can send it to the back or I can keep it in the front. It doesn't care which I want. So now I'm going to save my game. Let's go ahead and try it.
Game on.
So when my basketball, it looks like it's in the net there. It's about the only time I can put a basketball in a net. But it looks like it's in the net. I also wanted to make a sound. So I'm going to create a sound that's called swoosh. If it's touching this, then I'm going to make swoosh. And the way I do that is I go again to my control statements and my if statements. I don't need an if else. I just need an if. So if it is touching that, then I want it to make a sound. And the way I do that is I go down here to sensing. It's a little weird now. Sensing is checking for things touching, whatever they are. So if it's touching, if the net is touching the basketball, I give a choice. I want it to make a sound that says swoosh. So I want to play a sound, and I don't want it to be pop. I'm going to record it. Swoosh.
Swoosh.
Save it. I'll give it a name called swoosh. Go to my code. I don't want it to be pop. I want it to be swoosh. Now, if I attach this, let's try the game and see what happens.
Game on.
Now,
Game on.
now the other one. So I press start.
Game on.
Now, here's the problem. When I go up and touch it, it doesn't say anything. Why didn't it? Well, because it ran through the code. It did exactly what I said. It moved the basketball down there. It went to the front layer, and then it said, hey, if it's touching it. But down here, it wasn't touching it. I have to put a loop in here. So I have to put a control in here that gives me a loop, and I'm going to use a forever loop. So, whoops. So it's constantly checking for this condition. I hit save.
Game on.
And I move my basketball up.
Swoosh. Swoosh.
And I'm good. I have a pretty good little game right now. Let's go and save it. I'm feeling pretty done. I do it full screen so I can try this out. I'm going to click my stop, my start. All right, I move to the left.
Out of bounds.
Move to the right.
Out of bounds.
I move to the bottom.
Out of bounds.
I shoot way up.
Air ball.
I go over the net. And I drop it through the net.
Swoosh.
Oh, yeah. I hope you had fun. You do not have to do basketball. You can do whatever you want. Enjoy it. You do not have to have multiple sprites. You do have to make it move left and right and have bounds, up and down and have bounds. And I want to hear some sounds.